Okay, our next lesson is estimating or rounding decimals. Okay, so decimals is our new thing that we're learning, but we have already learned about estimating and rounding. We did that in a unit before. So let's just review this for a minute. Do you remember how to round up and down? Some of you will, so you will not need this review, but most of you should listen to it, or some of you will remember how to round, so you might not want to listen to this part, but most of you should listen to this just to get a review again. Okay, so the basic rule of rounding is that we're rounding to numbers that have zeros because those are easy to add and subtract. They're easy to deal with. 5 is the middle number, and the rule is if the number is 5 or higher, we round up. So 5 or higher, we round up. Okay? If the number is 4 or lower, we, hang on there, 4 or lower, then we round down. Okay? So let's do an easy, a medium, and a hard example of that. Okay, so if I have got the number 15, the 5 tells me to round up. My choices are 10 or 20, right? Because I want those 0 choices on each side, lower and higher. The 5 tells me to round up, so rounding would be, 15 would be closer to 20. Okay, let's take a medium example. Let's take one that's got hundreds in it. 200, I'll just move that over. 247. Okay, now this one I am going to round to hundreds. Okay, so there's my hundreds. So is it closer to 200 or is it closer to 300? So if I'm rounding to the nearest hundreds, it's the very next number, the next biggest number, not this one. Okay, it's the next number in the tens. If I'm rounding to hundreds, it's the tens that tells me to go up or down. This is a number 4. The rule is 4 or lower, you round down. So we are going to round this number down to 200. So 247 is closer to 200 than it is to 300. You can also think about what would be right in the middle between 200 and 300. It would be 250. That would be the middle number. Is 247 less than 250? Yes, it is. So it would be on this side. Okay, so you can always think about that benchmark in the middle as well. A little bit of a tougher question is when we have a bigger number. Okay, so let's say we have this, but now I'm not rounding to thousands. I'm not thinking about that. I'm going to round this one to the nearest 10. Okay, so this is a little bit tougher. So 2,300, that stays the same. And remember what I showed you before was to cover this up with your finger and just look at this. So tens, what is that closer to? Is it closer to 10 or is it closer to 20? And remember the hundreds and thousands were not changing, so they just stay the same. So what tells us to go up and down? The number right beside it, the next biggest number. And 4 tells us to go down. So this one would be rounded. Okay? Now all those things are going to stay the same today, but we're going to have this dollar sign and we're going to have this decimal in here. But you're not going to learn how to round any differently. It's going to be the same. So what are we going to do? Number 1, we're going to take this number, $3.47. But what are we going to round it to? Well, when you go into a store, they round it to the nearest 5 because you get your payment back in nickels now, rounded to the nearest nickel. But we are going to do tens. So we're going to round it to the nearest dime or tenths. Okay, so what are our 2 choices? Just like I showed you before, cover that up with your finger, right? Let's look at this number, 47. So 4 is 47 closer to 40 or is it closer to 50? Okay, so the 7 tells us what to do. The 7 is 5 or higher. We are going to round up to the 50. So what is this money amount rounded to the nearest tenths or dimes? We keep the $3. That doesn't disappear. We were just ignoring it for a minute. And now we're going to say that 47 is close to 50. Okay? So when we look at the number $3.47, if I see that out in a store somewhere, in my mind, I'm automatically rounding it to this, especially if I'm figuring out how much I'm spending altogether. I will say to myself, that's about, remember that word, about $3.50. It's much easier for your brain to remember that and for your brain to add that to other numbers. Okay, I can make this even easier for my brain now by rounding to a different number. Now I can round to dollars instead of to the dimes or the tenths. Okay, so now this number that I'm looking at, the 3, is this $3? Is this closer to $3 or is it closer to $4? Okay, so let's look. What tells us? The number right beside tells us. So the 4, that is our rule to go down. So this number is actually closer to $3 than it is to $4. Because think about what's in the middle, $3.50, it's less than that. So if I am rounding or estimating this number, I would say I have about $3. And that is super easy to think about. So if I'm going through the store and I see all kinds of weird prices on things, $2.97, I'm going to think that's closer to $3. And then I see something for $9.18 and I think that's closest to $9. And I add those two up in my head. I know that those two things are going to cost about $12. Okay, so your moms and dads probably do that when they're shopping automatically, but that's something we have to learn how to do. All right, so page 241, and today is April 29. Okay, so get your page ready and pause until you're ready to do that. All right, number 1. Number 1 says about, okay, there's our clue word, tells us to do what? Estimate or round, means the same thing in this book. About how much money did Ethan spend this week? Show the numbers you use to estimate. Okay, so here's Ethan's little record of what he spent this week. About how much money did he spend this week? So they are asking how much money did he spend all together over the whole week? So is that a clue to add or subtract those numbers? Pause until you have decided. Okay, so if we're doing for the whole week, it doesn't say whole week, but it says this week. So that means everything during the week. That's kind of inferred that we are adding. Okay, so we know we're going to be adding. We know we're going to be rounding. So now we have to decide what to do with these numbers. Should we round them to the nearest dime or should we round them to the nearest dollar? Well, let's be super lazy and we're going to do the easy way and we're going to round them to the nearest dollar. Okay? So here we go. We have got these three amounts. We have got $7.45. We have got $6.25, and you need to be writing these down and super uber careful that your numbers line up and your decimals line up. Okay? So it should look like that. All the fives on top of each other, the tenths on top of each other, the decimals on top of each other, the ones, and then the tens. Okay, we are going to add those numbers, but we're not going to add them exactly. That's not what the question's asking. So remember when we used to do this, we used to write the rounded number beside, and that's what we're going to do today. So let's take a look at the $7.45. What do we look at to decide whether it's closer to $7 or $8? We look at the 4 because that's the next closest number. So what I would like you to write right here, Pause the video and write the dollar that is closer to. Okay, the 4 tells us to go down, so that is closer to $7. Okay, so that's how we're going to write that out. Let's look at the next one. We have $6.25. Is that closer to $6 or is that closer to $7? Look at the 2. Pause the video, write down your dollar amount. Yes, 2 tells us to round down, so that is closer to $6. Okay, would have to be over 50 cents to be closer to $7. And let's take a look at this last one, $11.85. Now for this one, we have to have 2 numbers before the decimal. So is this closer to $11 or $12? And the 8 is going to tell us. Okay, pause the video until you have that written out. Okay, so the 8 is telling us to round up, so we were going to round that to $12. Okay, and then now your final job there is to add, so I want you to pause the video and add those numbers up together. Okay, the adding for this is not too bad because it's all zeros in the cents column. So we have 0, 0, decimal. You have to have a decimal there or your answer is wrong. Okay, that's the tricky bit with money. Okay, and then we're going to add the 2 biggest numbers first, 7 plus 6. Think about your doubles. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 13 plus 2, 15. We're going to carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Question for you. Is this answer right or wrong? Would I mark this right or wrong? I would mark it wrong. Pause the video until you can figure out why. Okay, whenever you're talking about money, there has to be a money symbol at the beginning of the number. Okay, so if these 2 things are missing, the decimal or the money, then it is wrong. Okay, so you have to make sure that you have those things in there. Now it means $25. Just think about if this was missing. What would that mean? It would mean $2,500. Well, that's a heck of a lot different than $25, right? And what about if the dollar sign was missing? Well, that could mean 25 pizzas. It could mean 25 cookies. But that's not what it means. It means $25. So those 2 parts have to be in there. Okay, so if we were doing this in class, I would come around and I would mark it right or wrong, and I would be checking for your dollar sign and your decimal. Okay, number 2. If Ethan had $26.89 to start with, about how much money does he have left? Remember, he was spending money, so he got rid of it. So we have to think about a bunch of things. Number 1, we have to think about this number. Are we supposed to use this exact number? No, we are supposed to round this number. So since we rounded the other numbers to dollars, let's round this number to dollars as well. So $26.89, let's round that. So I want you to think about how you would round the 6. So is it going to be $26 or $27? Pause the video until you have that written in. Okay, the 8 tells us to round up, so we are going to round that to $27. Okay, so he had about $27 to start with. Now, think about this language. He had $27 to start with. He spent about $25. We figured that out. How much money does he have left? Pause the video until you can find the clue word that tells you whether to add or subtract in the sentence for number 2. Okay, and hopefully you found this word, left. He has money left over. He had money. Money has gone. It's been removed, subtracted. And when we say left, we are looking for subtraction. So if he started with $27, He spent $25. About how much money does he have left? He has $2 left. Now, I want you to write that out and I want you to fill in the two things that are missing. Pause the video. Okay, hopefully you added the decimal and the dollar sign. Okay, so the answer for that one is $2. He's got $2 left. He spent most of his money. All right, number 3. Now we have got a picture clue here with all kinds of numbers and money amounts on here. It says pennies, pitas. So what could we buy if we're there? We could buy yogurt for $1.29. We could buy pita for $2.75, juice for $1.25, milk for 89 cents, soup for $1.39, fruit salad for $1.85. Okay, so now let's take a look at number 3 and A. Jade ordered a pita and soup. Okay, Jen ordered yogurt. So we have 2 different people. They ordered different things. A says, estimate the cost of Jade's order. So what I would like you to do is write down the 2 numbers that go with Jade's order. Okay, pause the video and write that down. All right, Jade ordered a pita and soup. So those are the 2 numbers that you should have looked for. So a pita, $2.75. And the other thing was soup, $1.39. Okay, that's all I wanted you to do. I didn't want you to add or subtract or anything, because now we have to figure out, do we calculate that or do we estimate that? The instruction was estimate. So what do you want to do? Do you want to estimate that to the nearest dime or the nearest dollar? Oh, you're all saying dollar because that's easy. Oh, too bad. Today is not your lucky day. We're going to estimate that to the nearest tenths, which is dimes. So beside that, we are going to write $2. And now we have to decide if this is closer to 70 or 80. Okay, the 5 tells us what to do. Pause the video until you can figure out what the rest of that number is. All right, the 5 tells us to go up, so we're going to round that to 80 cents. Okay, and I'd like you to pause the video and do that with the next number, please. All right, the $1 stays the same. Now we are looking at the 3, and we're going to round it to either 30 or 40 cents. What does the 9 tell us to do? Well, 39 is closer to 40, and the 9 tells us to go up, so this is going to be 40 cents. Are we done? No, we're not. Estimate the cost of Jade's order. Well, her order is these 2 things, and when you pay for 2 things, you have to add them up together. So we're going to add those. Okay, so pause your video and add those together. All right, 0, 8 plus 4 is 12. We're going to write down the 2, carry the 1. We're going to put in our decimal because we're doing money. 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 1 is 4. Are we done? Good, you remembered. Okay, $4.20. That was all for A. Look at all the steps that we had to follow. Okay. B says about, ha ha ha. Again, we're estimating how much more money, that's another clue word, did Jade spend than Jen? Oy, oy, oy. Okay, so we know what Jade spent. This is Jade right here. Okay. We know that Jen ordered yogurt. Went to the wrong one. We know that Jen ordered yogurt. Yogurt costs $1.29. But we have to do the same thing with both numbers. We can't estimate one and not estimate the other. So we need to estimate for Jen. So let's see here. So let's do Jen. Okay, and she ordered yogurt, which was $1.29. We have to estimate that to the same thing that we estimated Jade's order, so to the dimes. So I would like you to pause the video and estimate that to the nearest dime or tenth. All right, the $1 stays the same. Now we're looking at 29. So is that closer to 20 or 30? So the 9 tells us to go up. So that is closer to 30. Whew. Okay, we're not done yet. Now it says how much more. Those of you who remember your clue words. It doesn't say how much did they all spend all together. We're not adding. So we are subtracting. That's a clue word for subtracting. So we've got the amount of 420. We've got the amount of 130. And as usual, I have run out of room. So I'm going to make a little room here. So 130, 420. I need to remember that. Okay. So here we go. We're going to start with a bigger number, obviously. 420 subtract 130. Okay, pause the video and do your subtracting. All right, 0 take away 0, easy peasy, 0. 2 take away 3. Uh-oh, we cannot do that. We can't do 3 take away 2 just because it's easier. No, we have to start with the top number. 2 take away 3, we cannot do that. So we are going to have to borrow from the next number, leaving us 3. Now we have 12. 12 take away 3 is 9. Don't forget your decimal. 3 take away 1 is 2. Don't forget your dollar sign. So the answer for B is $2.90. Sheesh, there's a lot of steps in there. Okay, and I'm just going to erase this again to make some room here. Okay, we are only going to do one more question, but when I say we, I really mean you. Okay, so think about this one and make sure there's going to be a lot of steps. So if you're just going to write two numbers down here and add or subtract, you're probably going to get it wrong. Okay, so you need to think through all these steps. Michael has $3.50. That's what he has. He wants soup, milk, and a pita. Does he have enough money? Okay, now I am going to give you a couple of hints here. If you think you know how to do this question completely on your own, just stop, do it by yourself. If you're completely confident you know how to do all the steps, and then I'll check your answer. Okay, if this is the last question for today, so that's fine. You can stop after this one. Okay, we'll do these tomorrow. If you need a few hints, keep listening. Okay, we need to remember a bunch of things. We need to remember he's got $3.50. Here's what he wants to buy. He wants soup, so he wants that number. He wants milk, and he wants a pita. Okay, so those are his three things right there. $2.75, 89 cents, and $1.39. Now, this clue word right here, does he have enough money? That is a clue word for rounding or estimating. It's not saying how much money would he have left over. It's not telling us that. It doesn't want an exact number. We just want to know, does he have about enough money to pay for all three of those things? Okay, so let's look at his number. His number is rounded to the dimes or the tenths. That's a hint for you when you're rounding. Okay, and I'm going to tell you that there are several steps in this question and that you have to add something in this question and then you have to subtract something in this question. Okay, so start by figuring out how much he is going to pay for how much money he needs to pay for his lunch. And remember, it is asking about enough. So rounding that. Okay. And then your second step, I'm not going to tell you what that is, but start with the first step of figuring out how much money does he actually need to pay for all three things. Okay. Good luck on that.